Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Headspace Podcast. This is the show where we break down the new hip-hop albums track by track, giving our thoughts and opinions on every single song. My name is Holden, Stephan, Roy.
My name is Chris Chrome.
And today we'll be talking about clipping. There existed an addiction to blood, and that is the album that we'll be discussing today. So before we get into it, we're going to do our little intro bit where we'd like to do things like introduce who we are a little bit and let you know that you can skip ahead by checking the description of the video. On that note, we recognize that we are not necessarily professionals. We are instead people who just started reviewing albums one day and have kept at it and just keep doing it week over week, studying the music that comes out, trying to wrap our heads around it, go through albums as a whole and try to understand the story or the bigger picture behind these albums and just show some appreciation with a little more depth than maybe what else is out there. Whether we succeed or not, well, that's entirely up to you, which is why we love the comments, because y'all really do a lot to help us make smarter choices over time on how we research, on how we learn, etc. And last week, what album did we talk about, Mr. Christopher?
Casanova, Behind These Scars?
Yep, Casanova, Behind These Scars. And on that, we got a comment from Peppo79, who said, Lil Kim album is better than Casanova and Vado album, Real Talk. And I have to say, from what I've heard of the Lil Kim album, it was better than the Casanova project. And maybe we should have reviewed that instead, is my thoughts, because that Casanova album is one of the first I didn't like this year that we reviewed, all things considered. And I'm like pretty much everything I hear, so I don't know. Sometimes there's just certain things about music that can get under your skin depending on, I guess, what's important to you when you're hearing the track. So this week, anyway, we moved on from that. So before we jump into the episode, I did want to just say we're on Spotify and Podbeam and hopefully on iTunes/Apple Music soon. We're waiting to be approved over there, but they're killing iTunes, so who knows how long that takes. But yeah, if you don't want to watch this on YouTube, you can go check out Behind That Suit reviews on Spotify. Give us a little follow over there. And I guess you can follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook to stay up to date with when like new episodes drop. If you do choose to go on those platforms and want to leave the YouTube world behind, because I do understand YouTube is a pretty data intensive platform and you don't necessarily need to see our faces to appreciate what we do here.
Fair enough.
But just wanted to let you know that's available, and I guess I'll start linking that down below where you can follow us on different places if you would so prefer to. And on that note, before we get into it, I want to thank the people who made that possible. Special thanks to the patrons, Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black, Hurricane, Lindell Williams, and Coney Sparks. They're dope. They support what we do. This is going to be the first episode we've recorded knowing that we're on Spotify, so it's very exciting. It feels like a momentous occasion, knowing there are people who won't be able to comment below listening to this. Doom, doom, doom. We'll never know what they think unless they come check us out on YouTube, and we'll reach out on Twitter and Facebook. Hey, look at that. Anyway, what album are we doing today?
So for this week's Headspace album review, we went with Clipping. There existed an addiction to blood.
So on the real, I did not know who Clipping was.
Episode 144.
Fair enough. But basically, what happened was Ismail, our patron, commented and said, you should check out this Clipping or Black Moon. And Black Moon's project was really good, actually. I did listen to it, but I felt that ultimately the Clipping project would be very interesting to talk about, having heard a little bit of it and just how, I guess, different it came off to me in the little preview. So that's how come we came to chose this. We thought it was important to kind of contextualize in this show both like why we picked the albums and our familiarity with the acts, because, you know, people seem to care, and we want to be as candid as possible with y'all. So for me, it was like, I first heard of Clipping as a musical entity about a day ago. And whenever you're watching this, for me, as recording this, it was a day ago. And then, I heard it, and then now we're here talking about it. I don't know if you've heard of Clipping before.
No, it was one of those moments. It was one of those moments where you asked me which one we're doing, and I went, I don't know either of the groups. So Completely
Yeah.
clueless.
However, I did look at Black Moon, and like it was like a tough choice, and we may end up actually just reviewing that album anyway in a future date or whatever. I have a vacation coming up, so maybe we bang on a couple extra reviews, because it was good. I don't want to take away from that album.
No,
it's
a
just
very...
when we talk about the Clipping album, you'll see why I was so excited to discuss this one. Although you coming here probably have heard this project to know what's up, so I thought it was cool that this, just who Clipping is, for those who don't know, it consists of producers William Hudson and Jonathan Snipes, so they bang out the instrumentals, as what I understand, and the rapper of the group is David Diggs. So when I clicked on his Wikipedia, I was quite excited to see that this guy has won a Tony and a Grammy Award for his work with the Hamilton Project, or the musical thingy. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. And I was like, damn, that's a pretty like interesting like person to come across, like just in terms of not knowing who he was at all, and then realizing how profound, I guess, at least this rapper dude is. And so I got really excited seeing that. But like ultimately, I don't know, I want to get into the project as soon as possible because I don't have a lot more here. I don't want to just stretch it with filler because I don't know anything else. That was what I've discovered up until this point, and then we listened to the album. Do you have anything more to add before we discuss the cover and the title?
No, we can jump right into that. What do you think of it?
I mean, the title is cool. There existed an addiction to blood. It makes me consider that this is going to be poetic because of the way it's worded. Like, it's not going to be a straightforward album,
right,
but like not necessarily too coded, but like something with a point to prove. But then when you consider what it's saying and you consider our society, it instantly, I'm sure for many people, can elicit different images of how ourselves or other people we know are addicted to blood.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can just remember when wrestling kind of went from PG-13 to like PG and the blood stopped, how upset everyone was that there wouldn't be like bleeding in WWE main events, you know. And so just that was like one of the things that just popped into my head when I first heard the title. So I don't know. What about you?
I kind of took it as like a myth type of title. Like it sounded more like some like Harry Potter type-ish title, like.
Okay.
And I don't know, it just sounded very like fictional, very kind of, we're gonna get some storytelling, we're gonna get some like imagery, we're gonna get some creative ideas that are gonna explain a message, but they also may be, like you said, like, you know, metaphorical or connecting in different ways, but like written in a way that is, I guess, a little bit fun, because I didn't get anything really serious from this title. I got more like interesting, like I'm more interested to see what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Kinda. So.
The cover does very little for me. It looks like a bunch of nails or whatever coming at me. Meh. Like you're falling and you're like looking at like pit of like spikes, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It's not my favorite cover. It's very black. I don't have a lot more to say.
I feel like it's it's kind of like an old type of style painting, like just like the wooden sticks or just kind of the way they're loaded out. I feel like there's maybe some type of symbolism there, but I agree with the whole like spike thing. It just kind of looks like a deathbed.
Anyway, we can move into the project and we can talk about the first track, which is called Intro on this project. There existed an addiction to blood. All right, Chris, what did you think about this introduction?
I thought it was cool. The way that it was presented kind of gave me this like cell phone-y feel. Felt like it was like this message that the character is, I guess, trying to give to somebody in some like coded way. But it was a very interesting way to start off the album, I do feel. Starts off, Mac like you don't remember the cash and the money, the mad dash after the ball had dropped. And I kind of took that line as if like you have to kind of grind, like you remember not having money or not being able to, or like coming from the ground up. The mad dash after the ball had dropped, I think that's kind of like, you know, having to be on your toes and like being like just ready to go. And just the idea of like the ball dropping is kind of just like that moment of, I guess, like the shit hitting the fan, just another type of metaphor. Dolphin turned tail on your right, then and the water was hot. Kind of sounds like somebody has like betrayed or kind of just addressing like somebody's turned on him or something like that, and now like the ocean or the atmosphere is kind of all different. And so far, I feel like he's given us this idea of where we're going to be taken to, just like kind of like the city, the world, the universe that we're going to be entering into. I really enjoy the detailing of the lyrics. The dolphin turned tail on you, right? And the water was hot, boiling, oiling, separating all the good stuff to the top. And then the bottom fell out of the bodies, hit the floor. Same old bare face in the body while you come pay rolling. Like, I feel he just gives a lot of that, just trying to really give you that picture while he's writing the lyrics, which I thought was cool.
And what is he trying to describe with his pictures?
I feel like it's just it's kind of just building up this context of what we're about to get.
What are we about to get?
A story, a creepy story from what I understand.
What is the story about?
I don't know.
Awesome. Because he goes, dolphin to tail, and first of all, like, it's got this greenness to it, and in the background of it, there is like a shovel that is digging a hole, and it almost pictures, and maybe I'm inspired by the album's description on Bandcamp, where it does kind of says shit about bodies and whatnot, but you almost picture like a person with that shovel by himself in the middle of the woods somewhere, digging up a hole to drop a dead body in. Right? So you have that atmosphere going on. And then when you get to that boiling oil, separating all the good stuff to the top, all right, it's kind of vague, but it kind of indicates that something's going to happen, and maybe there's a segregation of good and bad. And then the bottom fell out and the bodies hit the floor. And then it's like, oh, okay, kind of picture like a car or some shit or whatever. And same old bare face and body while you come play role, and everybody rocking that halo back in the day. But they know, say no more, the ghost of bitches and chickens come here to roost. And I just get the feeling that it is very descriptive in terms of creating an atmosphere for where the worst is going to happen. This is the bottom. This is the darkness. This is like the evilish shit that exists, where like the actual killer is going to put the body in the ground. And every snitch that was put in this hitch got thread that's connected to the truth, and demons seeking freedom out here weaving the guilt. And there may even be some meaning gleaming in the streets that they built. And it just kind of almost like has this picture of all these desperate souls seeking some kind of redemption, or seeking some kind of, or like intermingling, and everyone's just trying to find meaning in the life, like, and there may even be some meaning gleaming in the streets that they built. So you look at the streets, I think that's a clue to looking at this is going to be a satirization of the hood and the environment that you're kind of put into by using these horror-esque theme to describe the situation. So when you're looking at these lines, it almost is what everyone else is describing, make that money, hit that grind, I'm a killer, I'm gonna do all these things. And then he's kind of taking it to an extreme in like a literal sense here. So I agree with you entirely that this is setting the atmosphere for the story that we're getting into. The story of, I guess, what happens when you take the hood lyrics this seriously, and they're, because the streets that they built is on top of dead bodies in the olden days when the pen was a quill and blood was the ink upon which all them scary stories was built.
Which I like. I do like that line, and the reason why I like it is because it kind of gave me this literal picture of the world itself, like just all the people before us. Looking back, how like, again, whenever what was written was kind of like law, kind of like if it was written down you had to kind of believe it. And then a lot of just the wars and like even the gladiator battles and shit like that is kind of what I pictured a little bit too, is just that was part of stories that were told, and the heroes and this.
I kind of took it like, and this may be graphic, but stories of like how when the colonizers came to America, there was this moment that took place where like 200 dudes on horses with guns killed, and it's estimated to be this number of 80,000 native people in one setting, because the native folk who had encountered them did not understand what men on horses with guns were, and were petrified, and they just like slaughtered them all. So when I see that and I picture like, ink upon the quill, I picture the treaties and the contracts and the way it was dealt with, and the blood was the ink upon which all them scary stories was built, right? And so that kind of moves into lore, right? And how all these lores and different things come from probably a lot of terrible moments in history. And I'm just guessing here, right? Because this shit is pretty fucking obscure. On top of that, he's right about how it like kind of comes in through this faded speaker, kind of on a phone thing, like it's downplaying the quality of it, but to fit the complete atmosphere. Meanwhile, it just feels like you're like watching a horror movie. Whereas I find like a lot of horrorcore that we have listened to approaches the horrorcore themes, but doesn't necessarily really make me feel fear. I've never felt fear listening to horrorcore. It was more like the Rob Zombie hack and slash gory shit that is more what I get out of what I've heard of horrorcore.
Just on that note, there is certain parts in this album that when I was reviewing it last night, it was like I kind of got scared. Like, just certain way that the production was used, the production was made, how they use certain sound effects, and they really kind of go in on, like, creating the whole, I want to say, like, cinematic feel to the whole track individually, and I'll talk about it on other tracks, of course. It, like, just the concept of, like, feeling fear, yeah, like, you know, in, like, scary movies, that, like, noise when the dude's, like, behind you, or, like, creeping up or whatever, and you're kind of, like, not aware of it. Like, they kind of gave me that effect. So, like, just really, oof.
So, like, just to add on to the native thing, right? He moves, if you jump ahead just a little bit, and I know we basically went through a lot of the lyrics, and again, I could be wrong about anything, and for all of y'all that do understand the lyrics better because you've been listening to this for weeks and have just discovered this review, I'm really open to hearing your interpretations of anything and your clarifications and whatnot, because everyone else coming to read the comments would also benefit from that too, so that would make you the MVP watching this person watching this is what I meant to say. But he goes, fuck her, they're real, skinwalker, don't give a fuck how you feel, they ate pieces of meat like you for breakfast, get it? And a skinwalker is apparently in Navajo culture a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. This is also the term used for healers. So if you go real metaphorical with that shit, right? So it's almost like how the government and other such entities present themselves as saviors and messiahs and hope and all these good things, but are really there to destroy you and hurt you in such a way. So if you look at the hood, it's almost like the different forces and entities that make all the false promises about the benefit of everybody, but really are just creating circumstances to further the detriment of society. Or if you look at just, I don't know, colonial history, it's just littered with lots of terrible actions. I don't know. Anyway, so I got all that kind of triggered from it. So deal with it. The steel ain't shit. Moon is full. Your silver chain is beautiful. They make a lot of werewolf-y kind of references throughout this album, so I think it's relevant. I didn't catch it at first, but seeing that now, I think it's just worth bringing it up. It could be some illusion. Your silver chain is beautiful. I don't know that much about werewolf lore, but silver is often associated with it, you know, silver bullets and shit. And you the fool who never seen the light of day anyway. Any day anybody could pass. Monsters out here just as passionate as men out for cash. Bloodsucker ain't never been a big enough fire to give a fuck. The trigger's up, cross your heart, give it up, and then it just cuts off like the call, it disconnects. And that makes it, I feel like, our protagonists or the different people we're approaching are going to be the certain participants of a lifestyle that may be just what you would exist in the night, the type of people who avoid the day, the type of people who live in the shadows. And those kind of parallels the idea of the bloodthirsty monsters with the people thirsty for cash by any means necessary. And this is the parallel I believe they were trying to communicate. And so in a sense, you're going to use this horror imagery to describe a series of circumstances. And I'm saying this with the hindsight of many of the themes discussed on the album now, but I believe it's meant to describe a lot of the scenarios that impact the hood in different environments like that, but using real horror as like a way to describe what the reality is like. Because I can tell you one thing, if I listened to this late at night for the first time, I may have been scared from a music album, because this shit is so creepily well put together. Like, yeah. I mean, we're talking a minute here, and he says all of that because, like, his pace is fast. Like, I don't think I can do it justice just off the top of my head, but it's like, Mac, like you don't remember the cash and the money, the mad dash after the ball that dropped off into tail and you read, and there's like kind of that frantic pace that it's coming at.
It it kind of sounds like a little bit of a chant, like in the middle of what, like when you were saying, like kind of sounds like he's digging a grave or something, or whatever, digging a hole. Kind of sounds like he's chanting this as he's doing all of these acts, and it kind of makes him have this like hyperventilating feel where he's like really talking fast and breathing heavily, and he's like panicking as he's doing the action. It really sets up a nice.
Anyway, I give this a 4.5 on 5. The album gets better. This can't be a 5. Like, this isn't the greatest thing you're gonna hear, but it's an amazing start to the project. It is a 4.5 on 5. As far as introductions go, I believe it serves the role it's supposed to, where it sucks you right the fuck out of what you're doing, and it brings you into the world. But unlike most introductions, I find this re-listenable as an individual entity, as like a song where I'd be okay if this came on random in the middle or whatever, just kind of reminded me this album's out there, but still be a fresh ass 1 minute little verse in and of itself. And that's not something I find a lot of intros bring to the table. A lot of intros, even like the really good ones, tend to be only really good within the confine of the album. And maybe I'm just, spoiler alert, this album blew my fucking mind. Maybe I'm just really biased or something in its favor. But this shit was nice because it's like a minute little verse there. He's killing it. Like, if you're like me, fast rapping, and I know you're like me, is fucking intoxicatingly fun when delivered in an interesting and different way. So if you're busy rapping about cocaine strippers and hoes and it's not interesting, I'm not really going to be that down for your music. If you're whining about how the mainstream is whatever, there's lots of tropes in fast rap that I find boring. Cricket rhymes, everybody knows what I mean there. You just get these annoying, repetitious attitudes instead of tripping me up by dropping something that is absolutely like new in a sense.
I also want to say the rhyming and the lyric placement in these songs are really cool. Like, he doesn't rhyme all of the lines. He kind of says it in like, he kind of does it in like sentences. Like, if it has to end on a different rhyme to formulate the whole picture of it, it'll happen. And it doesn't sound offbeat, and it doesn't sound like it was like not supposed to be there. It really just kind of like a little slap to the face, like, oh, another noise, and then we're back into the little same type of rhyme scheme. But when you're following along with the lyrics and you're following along and listening, it really just builds that bigger picture. I did give the intro a 4.
It's fine. You don't have to like things as much as I do. And the truth is, when we grade in your albums, nothing is safe except for the fact that I'm probably going to give it a high grade. I mean, like here's the thing. It's not often you hear a song that just completely enthralls you, in my opinion, hits you with subject matter that you've literally never heard anybody deliver quite like this, and it just blows my mind, this track, honestly. Like, so the beat type in this calm, subdued, but like head bopping, like do do do, like
it's got this jazzy little like bass to it, and it just really just it again with the off timing, like it doesn't feel like there is a proper structure to how the music is supposed to sound. It really just sounds like it
feels like an experience. Every single song is an experience, okay? That is the best way to describe it. But I don't agree about him. There's a clear introductory structure and math behind the rhythm and how the beat flows out. It's actually not that non-typical. Even like this song, it's 4 minutes and 57 seconds, which is an average length for a full 3-verse song with pre-chorus and a chorus.
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying no, but structurally speaking.
Well, I was just talking like, if you hear the intro to this song, the little like piano keys, and you're counting the piano keys, the timing of when the beat, of when like the bass comes in, it kind of sounds like it's off beat. Like, it kind of sounds like it's just free flowing in. Like,
I would say like it sounds like it's a rock bass line a lot more than a hip hop bass line. Because like it didn't sound offbeat to me, but like if I were to compose a more arpeggio driven bass line, which I did play bass for a little bit in case you were wondering, and it would be something more note driven like that, right? It wouldn't be the same rhythm as the lead per se. So like I guess it's maybe something that's underutilized in hip hop, and maybe that's something that should be changed. either way, I get what you're saying now. But man, when he kicks in, first of all, his vocals are hella clean, hella crisp and clear, in a way that adds element, right? Because it is a story and it is driven entirely by his narrative.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what the track's about at first. So it's like everyone's safe and sound. It's a family too. Only homies around. Everyone here is crew. And I'm not going to lie. I feel like this is such a pleasant and nice start. You're like, oh.
It already, so for me, I'm already in that this is going to be a like trap song. And I don't mean trap like 808 drums and stuff. I meant like we're about to go into a trap house.
That's
straight
fair.
up. Like that was the first thing that came to
I
my
know,
mind.
but it still seems kind of nice until you get something foul in the air.
Of course.
Something feelings askew. Wind is in the pipe. Is that whistle calling for you? And he does it like really steady, right? Like really flow. Like
everyone safe and sound. This our family do.
And that flow is ridiculous. It's so
Only
nice.
homies
It's
around.
such a, like an
Everyone here is
intoxicating
crew.
flow, honestly. Anyway, so windows boarded, sealed, doors bolted in, locked, product cooking on pace, weaponry fully stocked. And you're right, it's describing a typical trap house. Everything's kind of blocked out. Everything's what it is. Everybody's there.
This is my favorite line, though.
Body sleeping in shifts. Other bodies keep watch. Bullets are for anybody caught running up in the spot. And the pop. Drop the lights to drop low. Something shot from the trees. And I love that, right? Because he's describing the setup. All right, so we got everything locked down.
Right.
We got the people sleeping on shift.
Right.
We got the other people up there going. You know, bullets are for anybody caught running in the spot.
Right.
You know, so it's implying almost like anybody that's going to invade on the situation is going to get caught. And then you get the pop describing what you would typically think, all right, they're going to shoot. They're describing them shooting. But no, it's a complete role reversal.
Yeah.
The pop turns out to not be that at all, because drop the lights to drop low, something shot from the trees went, and you're like, what? All of a sudden, no. You're in the trap house, ready to go, everything, and you look at, boom! Somebody gets fucking shot in the neck, okay?
Comes straight through the front door, homie dropped to his knees.
Blood seeping from his neck as he struggles to breathe. Wooden floor is stained wet. Gets soft more than he bleeds. And it's those little details, right? Because, I mean, I've never been in a moment where that's happened. So you can only be left to have your imagination running. But as a writer, right? Having that extra detail, like, you think about it, what happens after somebody gets shot on a wooden floor? The blood would seep into the wood and make it get softer. And it's that level of descriptiveness that really, I think, takes it from being like a regular thing to like you're completely into this, like it's an audio fucking book and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're just left like, what the fuck? I don't know about you guys, but I was left with a, what the fuck?
Comes in right into the pre-chorus, going on like a quicker flow.
Didn't know when someone was coming, but they creeping on the come up and everything was in your face. I face it.
Face it, let it resonate up in your bone a minute when you shiver, make it like a slipper foot.
It's so nice. So it is at that kind of a pace.
Let's
obviously say creeping on a come up, Bone Thugs, and then he goes, face it, let it resonate in your bone a minute, right? And I thought that was fucking ridiculous, right? Because he does the creeping on a come up line, which is interesting because that's kind of has some demon summary going on in their older work. Let it resonate in your bone a minute when you shiver, because again it kind of plays into the imagery. But I wanted to say how incredible it is that they gave the nod to Bone Thugs like that. And I think it's important for people to kind of, you know, let you know where the inspiration is.
Right.
So it gives you that little nod of the history of things. And like Bone Thugs is very seminal, I believe, in the sound that we're playing with in this track in terms of the speed and rhythm delivery and subject matter.
Right.
And to give them that shout out, I think is really, really cool. And I haven't heard Creeping On It come up yet, but East 99 Eternal is pretty dope. And our review of that on this very channel got really hella hated. So if you want to watch us make asses of ourselves, you know what to do.
I did want to say, though, I like how the pre-chorus, because
first of all, I want to call this the chorus. I don't care what Genius says, and what they call the chorus, I'm calling the post-chorus. That's my opinion.
Fair. The chorus or whatever changes throughout the song, and it's for an effect.
We should have brought that up when it changed the next time.
I know,
it's
but
a story.
I'm excited because here
it does do that.
Here it goes. Didn't no one summon what was coming?
Right.
But it creep it right. But
So
it's the fact that he says didn't no one summon. It's like there's this theory, like kind of giving you this idea that nobody knew this was happening.
Or that, like the fact that the cops raided this place is completely a holy shit, how did this happen kind of idea.
Well, we don't actually know it's the cops yet, right? Like, I know I ruined, I kind of broke the storyline, but we don't actually know it's the cops yet. We just know that somebody got shot. Because at first I thought it was a rival gang team.
Okay, fine. So it could be a rival. Somebody came at them and they don't know, so it might not be the cops. Fine. So somebody shot at them and they're like, how did this happen? We were ready to go and safe and board it up, is the implication. But, and then I like the way he flips the chorus. It goes, rip it, life slipping away, and maybe you can make it out with just a little bit of grace, as though even though everybody's dying and shit, maybe you can sneak out.
Right.
But it truly doesn't give a fuck about the fear you feel in. It's here to make you understand that nothing is safe. And it's like death doesn't care. When that shit's coming, when that consequence comes, you're done. Nothing is safe. Nothing is sacred. Nothing
is safe. Nothing to pray for. Nothing is safe.
Nothing is. And then the next verse starts, and you're just
light to stay low. All is quiet and still.
Peering through the window, staring over the field, the scent of death in the air. Nothing out there looks real. Close the homie's eyes. Anyway, instead of going through it like bar by bar, what ends up happening in this verse that's super significant, you should really listen to this track, and he'll describe it with much better detail. But what ends up happening is a phone that no one should call starts ringing at one time. So that refers to the fact that there's phone bombs that are triggered by being called. So somebody throws this phone bomb up to the phone. That phone gets clipped in. All the homies' eyes slide to the wall. So they see the phone drop in. Boom! It blows up, like tears the wall off. All of a sudden, the air rushes in, cold as fuck, but bullets start slapping. So it's essentially, a little mobile phone grenade. Blows up the fucking wall. And all of a sudden,
I thought it was
guns is firing from everywhere inside. I'm a little excited. This album's fucking ridiculous.
I took it different. Well, I mean, like that makes more sense. But I kind of took it as like in the I kind of pictured everybody in the kitchen.
I know.
And then like the
genius
phone, and then it rings off.
That's what I thought.
Right.
But then the genius annotation said that shit, and I'm like, oh, that makes more sense within the way this guy writes the album.
Right.
It's because it's really. And then the mission is failed. The wood is split. The chandelier, and I'm like, oh shit! The mission of staying alive is failed, right?
Yeah.
You are all dying, and will anyone care? Truth, like death, comes for everyone. You're like, oh. So now, first, one dude gets clipped, and okay, you guys can't see what I'm doing, but that's like the sound effects embodying the story of the whole thing. But and then everyone's just lying there fucking dying right now, and it's really like, holy crap. And then Chris is right. So the rest of the chorus stays the same except for the first line, which flips to barely had to summon what was coming. So
I like how it changes after the situation has elevated.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, in the first verse, only one person has gotten shot, and we kind of get this idea that there is a raid happening. Now, in the second verse, after things have quickly escalated and there's this whole big war going, it's kind of like, I like how he changes the chorus to keep up with the present time of the song.
And then we get the third verse where the story takes like a serious twist. So death is coming for you, but you already knew that. So we can take from that this is like the last moments of our protagonist as they're dying and they're reflecting on stuff, right? Thought the click brought you some safety up in his pack, but it didn't add up. Back up, stand up, strike a pose with your gat up. That's what they like, you suppose. So you almost get the sense of like they're flossing around on the internet with guns, making it all look real cool. Or maybe it's offline and it's just the lifestyle that they're living. Either way, in this verse, what I took from it without going through it line by line is they proceeded to do some kind of a score. They robbed somebody, they did a thing. Ultimately, their actions were a little careless and a person died. Only one person. It almost feels like it's wrote it down. And then as the situation is unfolding, it's like he's thinking back on this crime that everybody committed that triggered this assault on the trap situation.
I think it's deeper than that. I think it's the other way around. I don't think it's about the crime. I think it's the lifestyle. I think it's like they're in the trap house, they're being raided, everybody's starting to die.
So when you think back, you're like, oh shit, we actually did do this thing.
Oh,
and this thing had a consequence. And so it kind of adds that layer of story to it because the third chorus thing is long ago you summoned what was coming. right? So it's
Right,
implying
exactly.
that like once
When you first joined the gang or something,
yeah,
like when
or
you first
like
entered this life, you already summoned this
and it makes
inevitable
me
situation.
think of that Kendrick Lamar lyric, "You shot my cousin back in '92, fuck your truce," or however he goes,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So it's kind of like some action you do at any point in time can trigger this consequence. So at first,
Like a butterfly
it's
effect.
like, oh crap, what the hell's happening? And then as time goes on, well, evidently something's happening. And then it's like, yeah, but you actually did this. You're the reason this happened once upon a time. And to the point where you kind of look, something about how he walked reminds you of someone. You look and see a gun, a man with no face, a golden halo that could be the sun. So what you realize, and I think it's left open to be, you're right, maybe it's not just police. Maybe, and we can think police because of what the freaking Bandcamp album notes say, but we can also take it like this is just a person extracting vengeance on you, or karma, or god-like figure, authority, something coming back to instill vengeance on you as a person.
Here is where, and actually, because I was thinking about the whole gang thing. Ashes to ashes, dust in the lung, fire now on everything, gasoline been poured. Last piece of action for you, Sir Com, just at the glance, and he talks about the dude. I don't think cops are pouring gasoline. I think that might be some next.
It doesn't necessarily have to be literal gasoline. It could be like metaphorical gas on the fire type thing.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I like the way it's written vaguely enough that this seems to be like a fluid sense of poetry. Either way, I like also that the beat of this song isn't as necessarily horror-y as some of the other ones will come to be, and instead it's his vocal delivery, the calm, the steady that we get on this track that really instills that fear in you. And you really almost feel like you're seeing this camera in the middle of the room and everything's going down, and it's just incredible. I don't think I've heard a lot of songs in this nature that have intoxicated me with joy as much as this one did. Joy is a weird word for this track, but I gave it a 5 on 5. It's amazing. It is like, to me, this is taking music and taking it to an extreme of interest in the way that like a Deltron 3030 did once upon a time.
I gave the song a 4.7.
Which is basically a 5 from Chris. My 5 is like, he agrees. Anyway, I'll give it to you. Based on Chris's 5, having to be able to listen to it every day, I don't think I could. This album is very much going to be when I'm in the mood for something like this, but it is so good.
That particular song though is like that's on my rotation. Now.
The second I heard it, I had to hit the little heart on Spotify. It's next. I'm gonna cop the album on Bandcamp. That's how much I fucking like this shit.
Nice.
Next up though is
He Did.
Yeah, that track. I mean, I wasn't really expecting the next track to, I guess, follow up with equal excellence, because it's super rare that the album's first track blows your mind, because it's a really crazy intro. The second track just turns out to be this magnificent imaginative story that has you hooked A to Z. Like, we're talking, you listen to this song 5 times in a row and you have trouble going on. I'm not kidding. I listened to that first track 5 times in a row, not because I missed anything,
Right.
but because I didn't want to move on to the rest of the album. It was so good. It took so long to review this for that reason. And it is, I'm not complaining. I'm saying this is an incredibly good day, all things considered. Then his next track, I think, just does it again. Like, I don't know who Ed Balloon is, but the way it just comes in with this singiness to it over this haunting, eerie beat. Protect your body. They want to take your body. They want to hurt your body and put it in a coffin. It's very clear. Somebody's out to get you.
Yep. I like that straightforwardness.
And the way he sings it, like, he sounds like he's not from here. He sounds like he represents, the spirit
island.
of, I believe he's supposed to embody, like, some guardian spirit that's, like, speaking down to somebody that's, like, that's how I pictured it. I don't know how else to put it, but, like, the spirit force in a Disney movie guiding you and giving you that kind of a warning.
I kind of get this, even off, because, again, they're, like I said, they're very detailed on how they kind of go through the songs and really give you that imagery. Right off the bat, I already kind of see somebody like running in slow motion as he's speaking, and you're getting that like visual feel of like kind of picturing who the person is, trying to figure out the loadout of like where they are, what's the current like.
But like, and then you're left with the sense of like a chase because they want to take your power. They want to make you even lesser and add you to the number. Don't let them get close. They're screaming out murder. You've got to be cautious before they destroy it. Don't let them get close. So you got to repeat it again. And then so you picture somebody chasing you down and wanting to turn you into a statistic is what I took from that. Like, and that doesn't to me leave a lot of options when you're thinking about it. Like it seems like maybe it's the police coming at you, and by you in this case I think we're talking about, you know, young black dudes. And then you get this, can you feel it everywhere, and then oh, he dead. And that he dead is the same he dead from Kendrick Lamar's Rigor Mortis, but now it's darker, and David Diggs is saying it in contrast to Ed Balloon singing can you feel it everywhere.
The way he says he dead, it kind of sounds like a inevitability.
Yeah, but
like
it's
when you're playing, like, you know, when you're watching somebody play games,
Kendrick
like,
Lamar was saying about other rappers on that track. So he took the exact same purpose, but now it's applying it to like murder of people. So can you feel it everywhere? Oh, he dead. And I mean, recently on a podcast, I said it had been a minute since I had heard of anybody getting shot by the police. And then, you know, I believe it was in Arizona recently, some black guy or some black lady was killed when some cop came in and shot her or whatever. And it's just like, oh, guess it's, you know, it just is kind of fucked up. That's just the end of that. But then you get to the verse, and it's only one verse this time, and it's a very long verse. So in this case, I'll agree with you. They don't care that much about conventional song structure. It's about creating the experience that they want to create on this track. And just the way he starts it. How fast can the bare feet run? The answer is barely, isn't it? But you can't stop for the pain. Pop another oxy, swallow and hit the brakes. And I'm like, you know, I never heard anybody like give a defense for Oxycontin use in such a way that like almost makes you empathize with somebody needing that drug.
I think
as you gotta run out of your apartment barefoot because the cops is about to raid it, like what we got in, like, you know, the last track.
Right.
And you are on bare feet, and given that you're gonna have to run up a fire escape to the roof, as we're gonna see in the next little bit.
But I think it's based on like the context of how you're presenting it, right? Like I understand 100%. A lot of rappers are like, yeah, I'm on these oxys, and yeah, no, but it sounds like they're glorifying the use of it.
I think this is trying to explain, here's how somebody ends up using oxys.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to glorify it. I mean, it doesn't sound fun. It's like, oh shit, I need to not feel. I need to be able to run an inhuman amount, otherwise I'm done. You know, we have to keep going. But you can't stop for the pain, etc. Follow the plan. You know all the tricks. Fire escape to the roof. Stay low, stay low. When they're screaming out murder, they're looking for you. They're always looking for you. Why the fuck they're always looking for you?
Which is a really cool line. That right there was the line that kind of made me think about like young black men, black males, that whole culture, because it's like the way that he's saying it the you has an emphasis on it that is really kind of outstanding to me a little bit.
But you're absolutely clear, and it's almost like you're correct. It's about black men being shot by cops. Why is it always that black men are pinned for fucking?
I don't think just shot. I think targeted. Like just full on targeted, like
hunted.
Like the hunted would be the. I feel like he's using hunted or whatnot as like an extreme term. It's like we are trying to pinpoint you for everything, whether it's like crimes, rapes, drugs, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's like we're targeting you guys.
But in a lot of ways, specifically murder.
Yes.
And that's why, you know, surely somebody must live without the stiffness, ice, and the spine. God, you've been running, so gotta keep on running. And so told you about so-and-so's cousin. They got him, and there wasn't nothing left for her to identify. And then it's like the consequence of getting caught, you know? And you hear about the police and just the way they destroy people and how vicious it is. Like
the line so-and-so told you about so-and-so's cousin. It's really interesting the way he uses that to explain. The way I'm taking it is like, this is a normal conversation in a way.
Yeah.
Through like the whole neighborhood.
It's almost like by 6 degrees of separation, or however you want to spin it, everybody is directly impacted. I mean, only 13% or so of America is black. So I imagine that 6 degrees of separation gets smaller if you target, like, go within just that one demographic community. And so I imagine everybody knows somebody that has had something happen to them. I mean, I know people who have had police do things to people in my own very life. So if it happens here in Montreal, one of the safer places on earth, I can only imagine where in the dangerous places it really could feel like you're being targeted and hunted. And especially if it's all over social media, and especially everybody gets off, or a judge hugs the white girl who shoots the guy in the apartment, you know? Anyway. Well, it's fucked up to me. Like, it's weird. It's just weird. I don't understand it. I don't understand why, like, white girls, and I don't want to come off in this kind of way, and I'm not trying to generalize to all white women, but it seems like a certain degree of white women of a certain whatever who cry or whatever get special treatment. Like, people want to comfort them or whatever, and it's like, yo, this chick shot dudes in his apartment and took his life. I don't know. It just seems like a weird time for a judge to give a hug.
That I'm not.
A brother hugging the guy who, like,
I understand whatever. That could be his way
the
of coping.
Judge?
What the
Are
fuck?
you kidding? That's some whack ass weird stuff to me. Anyway, at least I've come to see it as weird nowadays. But then
I wanted to continue on with disappeared in the blink of an eyeball. Bounce man.
Oh, he did. Lost and found man. He did. Used to be this girl around the way. Oh, she did.
Looked up to God and you pray.
Oh, he did. Oh, she did.
Now,
and then this is all these people are just getting killed.
But I like how they change it up and it's still like an inevitability. I feel like I kind of had this image that the person who's going he dead, oh she dead, oh they dead. It's like he's it's like Hunger Games when they're like fucking around with the map. It's kind of like an automatic like gone. Like there's like some type of power being instilled with the oh she dead, oh he dead. Like
I think it's, I don't know about power. I think it's like this like conditioning of, it's just so, and it's so everywhere, it's so blatant. It's just anybody that is black could just become a target for being black in America because of the way, and in Canada, because of the way the situation's set up. So it becomes like regular to the point where it's like, oh, he dead, oh, she dead, oh, he, like the numbers just stack up, the rates get insane. And I don't know what they say, you got loose, do not stop, do not dwell on the past, use a fool, you got legs, best to use them. What they say, you got loose, do not stop, do not dwell on the past, use a fool, you got legs, best to use them. That's fascinating. That to me sounds like on top of everything else, you're not allowed to feel the pain of watching your people who look like you getting killed by the police. Oh, that's in the past. Oh, forget about slavery. Oh, forget about systematic racisms and all those other terms. That's the past. Today, everything's better. Oh, you know, you got legs, use them. Best to use them. So in a sense, it's saying run because that's what your only choice left is. But in another sense, I take it like, you know, you got legs, best to use them to work or to change your life or to do whatever. And it's meant to be like a criticism, but doubling in. And I like the fact that, like, in 2 bars, he like breaks the fourth wall and adds this extra little layer of shit going on, you know? And then don't let them get too close. You've got to be cautious. This ain't knife to a gunfight, but more twig to a tank. And I'm like, shit, that's true. It isn't like a knife in a gunfight where, in a sense, you can still win the situation. It's more like you're a fucking twig and that's a tank and your only option is to get the fuck out of there because they will take you out and destroy you. And it's crazily descriptive. I don't know. I mean, it flows on and it just kind of almost makes it sound like the older you get, the less game they ought to be breaking in. They like the meat fresh, so just stay alive, young men, feet to the road again. And so it kind of, to me, is the whole rest of this part flows into basically stay alive. Because if you can make it past 25, you're all right, you know? They only go after them young. I picked 25 because of that Chicago statistic. So, like, evidently they kill them young, and if you can get old enough, you can find a way to stay alive, you'll likely make it. just so what and then he kind of points out like school's useless, so you sell it to do drugs, and that's why you have to run. And so what them books got them dreams and everything lost, what does sleep bring you but screams at night where you toss and hope in the stone, your motto and bust, stay alive at all costs. And you're just like,
that is powerful. That last line, to stay alive at all costs, it really resonates with, I feel it really resonates with the listener in even if you don't catch a lot of what he's saying the first time around or the second time around, that line specifically will hit, because it kind of just reminds you that like there's shit going on. It kind of reminded me in my own life, like just shit. Like I have to remember, I still gotta watch out for myself. You still gotta be careful. Like, not saying that I live in like a bad place, but it's the idea of like there is shit going on, there is shit bad happening, there is things. So,
I mean,
that's something that was cool for me.
I think it's again meant to capture the anxiety of what it feels like to be black in America. I really think it's very specific, this album, in terms of the market, and it's trying to, I think in a sense, communicate towards anyone who's listening. So on the one side, if you can relate to it, you can relate to it. But on the other side, if you're somebody like me, you can hear this and find empathy for the situation in a deeper way, because imagine your existence is this horror movie, and instead of hearing over some banger ass beats or whatever, you're getting an unapologetic horrorness. Like literally the first sounds of this track are like this gasping sounds, like somebody's fucking dying. Is the very beginning of this track. And I think it's really powerful art, and then it kind of flows into the singiness as I forgot his name, damn it, I went and changed my page, but the featured dude, Mr. Ed Balloon, doing his little outro bit, which is basically the same part as the beginning when he's singing the "Don't Let Them Get Close" to screaming out murder, and the "He Dead" part. And I just thought it like flowed into something kind of beautiful, hauntingly bad in content, and so like in the sense that it's really dark subject matter because it's truthful. Like this kind of is a lens that you could put on and look at the current reality, and it makes sense. I guess that's why it could be perceived as maybe hard to listen to, but I think it's incredible art for what it is, and I give it a 5 on 5. Again, I was a little bit blown away by this.
Nice. I gave it a 4.5 on 5. I really did enjoy it.
The next is a little interlude called Haunting. This is like a girl talking to like some therapist person,
Doctor, psychiatrist,
priest even, and like I don't know, it's really weird. She's just like, after I moved into my apartment 2 weeks ago, I woke up and there's all this weird paranormal boring crap. But like it basically it leads up to her describing how her friend tried to kill her, but it wasn't her friend. She was embodied by Satan, and she's proving it by all this weird, goofy shit that goes on. In fact, if you, because of Genius Person Testing Can, because Genius.com is a wonderful source, somebody actually slowed down the fast-forwarded part, and she goes from I saw my brother standing in the doorway, and he didn't know this is where I lived because we weren't on the something. Then one night, about 2 hours after my best friend who lived in there but left to go home for the weekend tried to kill me by smothering me. I prayed mentally to God, and the pressure was something. So who was really trying to kill me? Not my friend, but Satan. And there you go. Now you got a little bit of extra for those who didn't know that that's what was in the sped up part. Altogether, I believe it's atmospheric, and I think it is showing that there's some dark forces in life that can influence shit, or that people can become susceptible to believe in almost anything rather than what's truthful around them. But I didn't get a lot more out of that, and I gave this a 4. This was like, oh, skits. Not skits I don't really like as much as, let's say, the songs. That was my feeling here. So there you go.
I think I got confused because I feel like this is the one that was talking about paranoia, but I've also got the same thing from here too. I felt like the woman expressing her entities or spiritual hauntingness. I feel like she's just describing what she's kind of making up in her head, given her paranoia from the atmosphere she's coming from. Given the last couple of tracks we've heard and just kind of where we're at in this like story movie thingy, kind of learning about, I guess, the areas, it seems like there's this sense of trying to disconnect herself from like what's really happening and making up like monsters and shit in her own head. And that's kind of what I got there, kind of just dealing with like showing the result of what living in these type of conditions or kind of being one of these like night creatures could have on you, is what I got from this. I as well did give it a 4 on 5. Thought it was cool. Thought it continued nice with the story.
All right, the next track is called La Mala Ordina. So we are back at it with this super interesting. This track, La Mala Ordina, is named after this old 1972 crime thriller film, The Italian Connection, which was originally called La Mala Ordina. That's where they got the name. And in the music video, or lyric video, it's a bunch of scenes from that Italian movie where the lyrics are kind of formed using other images, and it's a really cool effect for a lyric video, but I felt it was not that readable in my opinion watching it, but it was interesting to watch, so I guess it got its cool across.
Well, the also Italian translation to English is the Mafia Order of the title. So that also kind of gave me this idea that we're going to get some like boss type of mentality here.
Sure. And then it's featuring Benny the Butcher and Elcamino, so we expect some, I don't know who Elcamino is, but Benny the Butcher just gives me a great feeling every time. And then the Rita, who turns out to be a noise artist, and I don't know how to better describe it, but their art or music is organized noise, like that kind of noise, and then they make songs out of it, and that's what they do. So you'll get some of that at the end of this track, and also at the beginning it kind of starts off very staticky, and then our Mr. Diggs lyrically just fucks me up again. The bags on the table aren't for weight, they for body parts. And I think that's an interesting point, right? Because I believe the goal of this song is to comment on how this gangster mafiosa lifestyle is often portrayed in the media rather than the reality of what these same people that are being glorified do. Like, I mean, it's worth remembering that Pablo Escobar blew up an airplane killing like 100 people for some domestic terrorism issues or whatever. Like, as much as you might glorify him as a successful coke dealer, it's also worth remembering he did that kind of stuff too when you want to compare yourself to him. And is that really admirable? Anyway, so just the idea that the bags you're seeing are literally for chopped up body parts and shit. Victim skin stretched across the wall, call it body art. And you're like, that is definitely the first time I've heard anybody use body art like that.
That was cool.
Oh, fuck. Bodies for the pile, bring them out strapped on a dolly cart. Anybody out there ain't on drugs yet, they should probably start. And it's pointing out that, like, and what I took from that is the people who commit these actions need drugs, or they can't even live that life. Like, how are you supposed to spend your day chopping up bodies and all that crap if you're not fucking high as a kite? Yes, there are probably people who are just okay with it, some really sociopathic people. But, like, for the most part, you would end up doing some fucking drugs to not feel, you know?
Right.
Why? Because this is too real. Your life's about, talking about your life's a movie when the parties start. Turn up. But you ain't pick a genre, little bitch, that wasn't hardly smart. The script was shit, your third act really drags, the structure falls apart. So here the fixer come, clipping limbs to serve him a la carte.
That was cool.
So I feel like he's kind of taking shots at a lot of rappers and a lot of media people who try to represent this gangster life, but fail to fully represent it. So that's when he's talking about the third act falling apart. And then he really goes on and is like, yeah, this is how it really ends after you kill those bodies. Guys to come in, chop those bodies up and get, like that's really what's going down.
I kind of also took it as like the third act falling apart is like where you get caught faking all this shit. Like you're just
And
out
then
here.
the fixer, as in authenticity, comes in and chops you rappers up out of that cart. But then it's like,
But I liked how he said clipping limbs using like the name of the group and everything. Like that was
yeah,
so funny.
it's very good because he's clipping shit, and in a sense, he's calling out whack fake rappers,
Yeah.
but he's doing it in a way that is excellent by describing the reality of what other people are glorifying.
And I think he redefines it in verse 2. He goes off like this: the horror show was so whack. You said you never go back, but you standing over the stove talking about you really know crack. Now I like how he's already kind of questioning people who are like kind of indecisive about being in and out of the game like that.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then he
Or
continues on.
in a sense that you're talking about how the hood, how this environment or whatever that you escaped from
Right.
through your music is whatever, but now in your music you're whipping up crack in the kitchen.
Right.
Or like I think a really good example of who we could use in a pop angle would be Migos, who allegedly did a lot of stuff once upon a time, used their music to get out, but have essentially like spent the rest of their career pretending that they're still actually whipping up crack in the kitchen when you're like on tour all the time and got paparazzis watching you. You're probably not really still in the kitchen cooking up crack, literally. So you could argue, but their music's about the past. But I think the point being, the being made in this song from Mr. Diggs would be, okay, but if it was such a terrible thing that you escaped from,
Why are you still talking
why are
about
you
it?
making it sound like this is what your world is? I mean, crack is what a skull do. If someone getting brain, that mean it was nice to know you. And that's an amazing line because crack, he flips it into a cracked skull. And then if someone's getting brain, which is getting some dome, which is getting some head, which I really like getting, that means it was nice to know you. The spinal fluid a go-to to thicken the pot. And then it's just like, oh, but that's like a cracked skull and the brain's leaking out and the spinal fluid into the pot, which is what you're standing over cooking up the crack. And he just flips up a different way that a pot is used with cracking shit open, going back to that dealing with dead bodies part of the first verse, and you're just like, oh, holy crap, this guy's mind is, the way he describes shit, I'm enthralled.
I really like how he follows up. It goes the click out in the whip, whipping the snot out of a submissive till he shit blood. Oh, you thought they was dick in a thought. That was really
You got your rap shit fucked up, and I think, yeah, go on.
Well, no, it just kind of really stood out, and it was like, it's not hard to believe that there's probably some really fucked up shit that goes on behind a lot of these closed doors in terms of just having power.
Well, I mean, I took it more like the cliques gangbanging some submissive until he shits blood because they're fucking him in the ass. But typically you'd run a train on a lady, and they're flipping that to running a train on a dude.
But it's also
then
like
his-
the idea of imagine having like an industry plan or somebody who blindly signs to your label and does everything you tell them to do. You're basically fucking him in the ass without him even realizing it.
I
Like,
guess.
I kind of took it like that too, like in terms of being
See,
submissive, like he just wants to be the fame or he or she wants to be the fame.
I mean, it
You're
could
just-
be that. I just thought, because like the following lines are, you thought there was dick in a thought, you got your rap shit fucked up, which I thought was doubling down on how boring and like redundant their stuff is, because you hear, oh, somebody's out there whipping a submissive until you hear he, and then it's like, wait, what? Guys want to gangbang a guy? Oh, that can't really happen. And then in rap music, that's just kind of the general narrative, like, look, say what you will. I'm in Canada. We're totally not as against homosexuality as a lot of other people are up here. So it's hard for me to see a lot of the homophobic crap in hip-hop to not be anything other than homophobic crap. But there's a lot of historical shit that gets attached to why certain communities may come off homophobic that makes it harder for me to blindly just be a shit saying these people are wrong for feeling how they feel. I'm just not really into it myself. I support the LGBTQTY people as long as things, make sense to it, because I do think a lot of people's oppressed and shit. But like, I think what he's trying to comment there is your instant expectations out of shit is that guys are going to be fucking a bitch like that. And it could be that they found some submissive little guy that wants to bend over and just take all that dick all night long. But maybe doubled over, as you were saying, as the industry plant type shit as well. Matchstick tucked under your tongue, pour the oil, smell the sulfur, then you run. And, it just will burn it down. And then Elcamino comes in and does this gangster-ass verse about beating down rappers and shit.
Generic verse.
I don't want to call it's not generic.
I'm rolling up in the back of a G-Wagon. I'm always on G status. Look, 40 on my lap. That's the heat package. I'm from a hood where we beat rappers.
Exactly. That's not generic.
Like, that's just super generic. Like,
no, but it's like...
If I'm out here on the streets battling you, I beat this rapper.
No. It's more like, yo, check it. We are real gangsters, and we're from the place where when these gangsters run their mouth talking about their shit, we beat them down. I'm like, okay. Because it kind of really follows up in the criticisms against fake glorification as well. We way too grimy. We don't see rappers. They're supposed to be street, but really actors. I really be with the jackers, the ones who clapping shit and pistol packing, who really trapping cocaine, selling with 60 in their mattress and do it with passion. And so, I mean, you could argue that sounds like every other dude. I'd be like, all right, but it fits the track because it's pointing out, look, there's an authentic series of people who lived his life.
Right.
I'm not sure who Elcamino is, but I'm going to assume that he is considered to be in this crew of people that is legitimate and authentic, given his placement on this track. Everything he says sounds proper, but really it just sounds like he's a psycho that is living the life because he's passionate about it, and he just happens to be a guy who raps. He doesn't sound like he's trying to be the best rapper. He sounds like a gangster that's fucking tired of rappers. Like to me, that's what I took from that.
I see that.
And then I feel like Benny, Butcher coming. I wish he did it, but he didn't. I know. I respect
it. At the end.
Oh, does he? No, but the butcher coming, and then he says a certain word I can't say.
Okay.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite Benny the Butcher tag. He doesn't do that on this track, but. Anyway, because you're dealing with a rapper that smoked contenders for wreck, real dope boy. I cook coke in the Endeavours, stretch diamonds right out the pot, everything invisible set, trunk got pies and it disappeared in 5 minutes. And I feel like simultaneously you go through these verses from these two and they are exactly what Mr. Diggs is talking about, but I get the feeling they're from guys who actually live that life, so have like almost the authority to speak on the subject.
So does that I guess that's part of the question. I guess that's part of the conversation, right? Does that make a difference? Like, because you are, like as you're saying, because you can assume or we think that they're legitimately from that life.
I mean, I've been listening to Benny for a minute now. Benny's been consistent, but when you listen to Benny's not a glorifier. He doesn't glorify it.
I've never said that.
And I never took it from Elcamino in this verse that it's a glorification. He's in fact almost warning it, like, look, I really lived this. You don't want this smoke. And in a sense, you look at how Benny ends his verse. We might smile to ear, but you can tell we evil. These rap people dye their hair just to sell some singles, And that's an interesting point. If you a bitch or get a jive switch and so it's legal. So he's saying, look, if you can't handle the life, get out, be legal with it, but don't front. And I think that's really the point. Like, don't sell your hair. Don't dye your hair to sell singles. Don't be all fake and whatever. Be authentic and live the life that you're supposed to be living.
But then I guess like we can. I mean, that's questionable though. Like, if I choose to be authentic and dyeing my hair green is what it is, and that's what I want to present my.
But is it? You gone like what? 26 years? Did you have green hair before?
I'm not saying me.
No, I'm saying you. So if you all of a sudden dyed your hair green, you're doing it probably to get some clout, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. If dudes has always had green hair because he's always had green hair, then he's not dyeing his hair to sell some singles, which could be said about certain people in the industry today. Like, I mean, I take that like a shot at 6ix9ine, all right?
Well, 6ix9ine.
No, but 6ix9ine specifically sold this gangster rap image.
With rainbow hair.
But like also did everything he could like to take on the world through trolling, to all sorts of rolling up in people's neighborhoods, to threaten them on Instagram Live, to take this gangster life and sell it to kids like it's cool and it's going to make you money and look how cool it is. When it is safe to say at this point, because of court testimonial, that 6ix9ine wasn't exactly a real one, as we can call it.
Right.
So I don't believe that if Benny the Butcher's in a similar situation, he's going to behave the way 6ix9ine behaved, is all I'm trying to say. I believe that, like, it's taking like this is what authentic sounds like and comparing it against a lot of the shit that people glorify with. Like again, and I don't want to just be taking shots at Migos, but like honestly, like cooking up dope with a Uzi is a pretty grandiose line just to floss about how whatever it is. It's not even a practical way to cook crack, okay? It's just stupid as a lyric.
It's like a play on words because Little Uzi's in the song. So cooking up dope with Lil Uzi.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I'll accept that one time. But my whole point in general is the way these guys, you know, in the kitchen, Miss Whipping like a stir fry. You know, it just sounds like a good time. Like everything's a party, everybody's living, and it's a good time.
I mean, so, and I think that's where I would argue the like, maybe it was a good time back in the day. Like when they get into that memory lane, when they go down that road, they're like, yeah, we used to whip it in the kitchen like it was stir fry, and we flipping bricks, and then they make a whole rap out of it.
But the whole point is, nobody from that life makes it sound like that. So why are people making it sound like that? You know?
I mean, that's just...
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people from that life that make it sound really fun. But usually the people from that life don't make it sound fun. They may make it sound profitable. They may have described how they found success through it. But, like, nobody from that life is like, yup, this was a good way in an enjoyable, easy peasy Sunday afternoon. Right? So that's what I'm saying. It sounds kind of then inauthentic and almost advocating in a positive way to pursue certain avenues of life because Migos is whipping it up, you know, in a fun, poppy way. And again, I'm not trying to take shots at Migos. I've come to appreciate their poppiness in some ways or others. But from a content perspective, it's easy to take shots at what they represent. I mean, they definitely... Anyway, let's move on. I like how right after Benny the Butcher's part, you get Mr. Diggs back, and he just comes in as the static starts to like come in under him. Rock, paper, ice pick, nice trick, no homonym, cutouts from the magazine, make letters for your mom and them. I'm like, oh fuck, that's like a fucking kidnapping, and we got your fucking kid. Who remember arts and crafts? These killers is artisans, and that's an interesting play on artisans and arts and crafts and how they creatively kill with an arsenal to elevate your arteries. Start again. Rhyming's incredible here. Rock, paper, zip tie, that slow burn, that drip dry, the fissures in your field. Anyway, it's just an amazing end. And then it gets to the point where the static just overwhelms, and it's like a minute and a half, a little bit more than that, of the Rita. So here's the thing. I don't enjoy listening to it, but you're not supposed to.
Killed the track.
But I don't know about that.
No, it killed the track for me. Like, I think
you can just
think
like skip it if you.
In this. Of course you can, but I think what it's supposed to do is supposed to put you in this like kind of convoluted thinking, all confused type of state after you just kind of went through these like you ain't shit type bars. Like
what?
Kind of like. The whole song to me kind of felt like every rapper was just kind of taking their own stance of it, like you really ain't shit. This is what the real life is like. Like in a sense.
I didn't take it as in you really ain't shit. I took it like they were really just saying this is what the real life is, and it's a shame people are not representing it correctly. That is not the same thing as you ain't shit.
I guess.
I mean, it just kind of seems like they're going, you guys are representing something you don't understand, I would take is whatever. But then, given the subject matter and the way he's ending it with these different crimes, like, you know, rock, paper, gunshot, classic out in some spots. It's almost like rock, paper, scissors, like how you're going to go out. These are some different ways people kill, you know? And then it just ends with this, like, kind of staticky sound, and it's almost like, oh, your life is ending. And I think it's supposed to be like you're hearing all of this, you're tied up, you're in the back, you're the one who just got shot, and now your life is fading, and all that's left is the sound of your blood and shh as you like die. Yeah, that's what I took from that like thing, because the song's almost like the mafia ordered a hit on you, and then went into a more descriptive nature of, you know, because, you know, go back to the title,
right.
And this is you getting taken out. Why? Because you're a fake rapper.
okay.
You don't like it?
No, I think
you
that's
don't-
actually really cool. Like, that's actually fucking really dope. But I don't.
It's not very pleasurable to listen to on purpose. I give it a 4.75. I thought it was really great in concept.
I give it a 4.2. I like the actual song of it, but I don't like.
You can just hit skip at the end. You don't have to listen to it.
I mean, that's fair.
That's part of why I wasn't being too harsh on it. If it was in the middle of the song and you were forced to listen to it every time to get to the end, all right, I would be harsher. But they did it nicely where it gives you the choice of if you want to listen to it or not. And with everybody's headphones having tappities and clickities and easy changing sound mechanisms these days, it's not a huge deal.
Fair enough.
All right. You want to move on to another track?
Yes.
It's called Club Down. What a cool beat. It's got like literal human screams in it and haunting horror-y sounds where it feels like you're in the middle of chaos. And if I'm going to take a stab at the whole point of the song in a sentence, it would be when everybody leaves the club fucked up on drugs and alcohol in the middle of the night, shit pops off.
Yep.
And that would be the point of this track.
Yep.
But for real, like, it's just all these horror-ish sounds. And you get this, turn the lights off, they don't shut the club down, shut the club down. And if you listen to his vocal track, you can almost replace the beat with any club banger.
Right.
And the way he's delivering, it's any banger. Like,
Right.
banger. But instead, it's horror. Because it's almost a representation of the lights are off, the club is shut down, you've got to leave. And then off it kind of starts, almost like the purge.
Kind of like, and that was, it's actually really cool you said that, because the way it was kind of given it to me was like, the way I was interpreting it was like a prison break. Like you at these clubs, you maintain all of these creatures, monsters, demons, whatever, who are doing what they have to do in this like little box thing. But then once it shuts down, they're now free to roam the streets.
But they're all intoxicated too.
Well, yes.
Anyway, so the schoolyard reeks of sewage, broken pipes, broken promise. The thin man stangers lucid for this time of night. Drying vomit dangles from the beard. Step, mumble, shuffle, trip. But the trajectory is clear. He's headed for the covered steps. So I might be wrong, but to me that's like a homeless guy that's kind of drunk or whatever. Maybe he's a little crusty, got a beard, he's old, and he sees some covered steps, and he's trying to get there because he knows what's coming. That's how I picture it.
Mm-hmm.
Then he remembers some poetry, or that his favorite film is Gene Kelly leaping Technicolor through the fray and feeling glorious. That's Singing in the Rain. So if your favorite movie is Singing in the Rain, you're probably not young, and if you're a dude, I mean, it's just really rare to see young dudes that are into musicals like that. The ladies, it's different. They all seem to really like Gene Kelly. So if you're trying to get laid, just some macking game, knowing who Gene Kelly is will probably help you get yourself in her good graces. The story is an allegory for days, and I guess it's how, like, I don't really know how it's an allegory for days, but you're looking at how in the movie sound or whatever gets introduced into the elements, or they start to have to adjust. So they're in Singing in the Rain, they're creating a movie, and it's like in the era before sound was added to videos, and then they started making a talkie, so a movie with talking, and then to adjust and adapt to that. So it's almost like in the nighttime and the daytime are in like stark contrast to one another. So anyway, night's coming now, so his days are beautiful and lovely, but in the night it's scary and kind of bad, It's all hands on deck to chase the pain away. Dealers rocking parkas with plenty pockets of, I like how he flips the flow there. Yeah. Dealers rocking parkas with plenty pockets for product and money. Horrors, the logics and babies holler from collect. The symphony is tectonic and shit, and it does that flow is fucking crazy.
It's really crazy. It's really tight. And his control of, like, the way that he controls on when he switches the flow or whatnot,
it's
so instant that it catches you all the time. Like, you're always just like, whoa, what?
But in this whole, like, section here, it kind of, like, ends up with everybody's doing this shit in the hopes of getting a golden noose for the net golden goose from a fairy tale shitting Fabergé eggs, which I believe is the goose that would shit golden eggs. And it became a whole thing, and there is a very expensive egg called a Fabergé egg, if I'm not mistaken, or it's a series of eggs. And you just kind of get the sense that in the nighttime, everybody doing their hustles and their grinds, everybody's trying to like make their money in whatever way possible, all with the hopes of like catching that big break. Here, snitches shit bricks, then quick to talk pig Latin, then that black dart too slick for that kid tapping a window while looking over his shoulder. Stop looking over your shoulder. You're never caught from behind as long as you keep moving forward.
Which is a really cool line, I feel, because it kind of enforces the idea that you have to just keep progressing. You have to keep
But it almost
moving
like
forward.
also calls back to the earlier track where you have to keep moving forward and you can't really stop
Right,
because
you
it's
just gotta keep running
dangerous.
because people are looking for you, people are hunting you. So
It's almost like that's the mentality, and
But I like
those
how he
people
also
that are
says-
trying to like stop or like get help or get shelters are almost dangerous. It's not how it is. You got to run.
right.
Because, you know, they long for sleep like the immortal be zombies, but they got this portal in their minds and the molecules get rewired every trip they're taking through time, and they trip in nightly, the blacks of their eyes igniting. So here what I'm picturing is a bunch of kids on pills fucking running the streets being reckless. I mean, in the 90s, PCP was a huge thing. Now I believe everyone's just on the different painkillers and other such things.
Right.
I mean, I'm certain there's different drugs in different neighborhoods. Like, there's not a lot of meth in Montreal, from what I can tell. Anyway, so you just get the sense everything's burning and kind of bad. A body's losing their feeling and falling down from the ceiling. It's black from the smoke that's rising. The scent is just so enticing. The scent is a small price for the right to live out your vices now. And then it's an interesting point. We almost want this environment of chaos for the right to indulge in sin, which is an interesting idea. Like, everyone wants to be able to do their drugs, but this is the consequence of it. And then they shut the bottle down, shut the club down, and every night after the club, it goes down. Plenty more rounds, bodies on the ground. You know, they pull out on Main Street, I'll stumble out, and everybody's fucked up, and hotties hardly walk now. Everybody's passed out in the backseat of a taxi, so they never hear a sound. So it's almost like everybody is so fucked up and everybody's so faded that people aren't even aware of all of the violence and dark things that come associated with it, because like when you're so drunk, you're so caught up in your world that you don't even realize, you know, just how fucked up things can be. And then
I like how he's using that imagery of like trying to escape, but he's more focusing on like the darkness of the atmosphere. Like, it's not most rap music, or a lot of rap music is based on I drink to escape my problems and blah blah blah, and he's taking away from, I feel like he's moving away from the let's glorify the drinking problem and let's talk about what's actually happening.
Then
that
if
you're
you think
missing
about the
while you're
last
drinking.
track, which was kind of commenting on the lifestyles that are glorified, I think this song takes that same narrative and goes, yo, you're all into this club hopping, blackout, drunk living life, but here's the other side
Like,
of
here's
that.
what you're not realizing that's happening while
Here's what you're not communicating is the other side of this world.
Okay.
You know, and then he's kind of putting the horror-esque feel of a drunk, dangerous place.
Right.
And then I love the fact that he flips up to the singing chorus. You know, it's the city, in the city you only see one, and it all look pretty well, it all begun, but the shit, it got balance at about a gun. All the money in the world ain't gonna stop none of this gangster shit, because the whole world loving that gangster shit. And I think it's pointing out that, yeah, there's the city and the city, and you only see one. So there's the good side of the city and the bad side of the city, and you only see the one that you see, even though at the beginning it all looked kind of nice. Or maybe it's sober or intoxicated, but there's some dichotomy that gets faced up. At the end of the day, how are you supposed to fix the problem when people are drawn to the dangerous side of this gangster life that's marketed and preached at everyone as such a cool and admirable thing, when at the end of the day, it's really not a problem that you can solve by just, oh, let's start another social program. It might go a little bit deeper than that. And then I like how in the second verse, it's like fast, like everybody's fucked up, and he's just going crazy quick with it. Like, what you know, bitch, what you know about that? Don't act like a newbie. New D-boys get jacked. What you need is a new jack swing and a truly discerning taste for the bass, like a foodie. So it almost sounds like you have to do the drugs and really understand it and really get into that world. Harmony's cruelly high when it's on a step. Stepped on dope as a safety net, and the dope fiends cry, but they don't regret. Everybody get high. Go out today. Turn the lights off. And it just feels like everyone ends up feels this need to be in this life because it comforts you, or it makes you feel safe. Like, it makes the entire environment that ironically is caused by this circumstance to be like a comforting thing. And then he just kind of ends up with that little outro because it repeats the chorus and whatnot, and it's got this like intensity to it the whole way through the track. And this ends with got the 20s and the 50s wrapped up under all the ones. 2 for 25 for 50. You could move a couple tons. You could put it in the blood or you could put it in the lungs, but whatever you cough up, remember that it all begun with that gangster shit. And I think it's kind of, again, a little bit commentating on drug dealing and just how it can make a lot of money, but at the same time it can also be taken in multiple different ways and has a bigger impact. But we should all remember that it kind of comes from that gangster shit.
I think it has like a little add to the, this is the type of lifestyle that maybe y'all are kind of trying to live. And while y'all are following those paths, you're not also seeing what's around you as well. Like, kind of the same idea or message that we kind of get from the song, but he's also interpolating, like, it's not just maybe about drinking or being in your own world like that or going to parties. It could also be like this avenue when you're trying to be that kingpin, dope selling gangster. You're also not, you're so focused on that you're not really seeing other consequences or other things that are in your atmosphere, which is also really cool too.
Fair enough. I really like this song again. I think it really has shown the versatility in this album and how like there's a constant flow to how the subjects kind of build on each other. So I just find it cool. Like we took almost like the haunting interlude, kind of takes the fear of maybe the police or that first little chapter and moves it into the glorification media by showing us how you can feel possessed by forces around you, and then showing in the next couple of tracks how I guess hip-hop and media can be used to sell images that really have horrific consequences to it. And it's just like incredible. Before we move into the rest of the album, it's just incredible what we've gotten in the first 6 tracks. This one gets another 4.75 from me.
I gave this song a 4.5. I really did enjoy it. I agree with Holden. It's so far everything we're getting is really diverse and really just different. And
especially just, sorry not to cut you off, but just the way he does all these freaking awesome traditional pop flows over this creepy ass screamy horror beat.
That is where I really started to kind of really get it, but kind of fall in love with a lot of what he's doing, is because it's just, this is modern flows, modern sounds, modern just the way it's happening. But the beat production and the creativity behind it so far is just so spectacular that I'm really interested to see like what else we get. Like, just, I know what we get. I'm more saying like just when we were doing the album, it was like,
we have to go back in time. Apparently the last album is also worth reviewing for the story arc it brings being super interesting, and I can't wait, having read a little description of it, to talk about that project.
Kind of sounds like it's a prophecy, right?
It does sound like it's a prophecy. You should not mumble, Chris. That's also a prophecy. It's like a minute and like 10 seconds of like what sounds to me like wheels in a hospital cart going around the hallway. Like some creepy nurse is like rolling a cart down, and like some needles are gonna get injected in somebody. And then the last 2 seconds, it kind of sounds like there's a muffled voice. And that's all I got on this. This sounds atmospheric, so I suppose as a break and a palate cleanser to change the theme of the album, it can serve its role really well. My enjoyment of it is it's there. It doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't actually sound exciting. It's just there. So I give it a 4.
So what I kind of took from this was like a dark, broken up shack in the middle of the woods. Somebody's tied up there, kind of not knowing where they are, kind of clueless of what the location is. And I feel like there's a kind of a generator in the background that's kind of just running, and there's like, I can kind of picture like a dark light. And I do agree with the muffling sounds. You can kind of hear somebody's like calling out for help or something like that, but it's not like you can hear them. It's really
like the last 2 seconds.
Right. But it's for me, I kind of was like, okay, no, I can hear something. But that's kind of how I got, and I feel like it does kind of set up for the next song, just the way that once we talk about it, I kind of feel like it connects. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, so I guess that's the end of part 1 of this review. We're going to call it cut in halftime here. We're going to go get ready to record part 2, as you would imagine comes after part 1. That's usually how it works. So thank y'all for watching so much. We do this because they get long, as it is. It's going to be over an hour, so you can imagine with the extra half an album to come, that one giant like 2.5 hour video is a little daunting. So this is what we do. And let us know if you don't care and you just want us to do it in one video too. But so far, nobody's complained about this, and it's been fun. So let us know what you think for sure in the comments. We are absolutely looking forward to hearing what you have to say. We're excited for it. And just keep in mind when you come and leave a comment about it all that, you know, part 2 is coming and you should check that out too. Because, I mean, I totally want to hear all of your ideas on the whole album on part 1. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all. I'm just saying we got a part 2. So, like, it's like the first half and then there's the second half. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to interacting with you. If you make that effort to comment, I'll make that effort to respond to y'all. If you're on Spotify, you can hit us up on Facebook and Twitter at Behind That Suit on both channels, and I guess Instagram too. You can holler at us there. Yeah, so thank y'all for watching, and special thanks to the patrons Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black, Hurricane, Linda Williams, and Connie Sparse. They help us out a lot. They support what we do. They help us get a new camera. They're technically the reason we're on Spotify now, and I'm going to bring that up because it's fun. It's new. It's exciting. I now have a music Spotify backend and a podcast Spotify backend because I make music. So that's fun. That's awesome for me. I feel cool knowing that I get, like, you know, whatever. So follow us on Spotify, or like this video, or subscribe to this channel, or comment, all that good stuff. Anyway, if the patrons also tell us what albums they want us to review, so next week Mr. Lindell Williams will get his review request in, and you'll see a few of those on this channel. They have great taste, but if you want us to review anything, whether it's that obscure album that you really want us to review, or your cousin's mixtape, or some pops thing, or whatever, that's a good way to get that done. Anyway, I make music. Just dropped an album last week. Yep, this week. Last week, I don't know. It came out. Either way, it's on Spotify. It's me.
Last week, if you're putting this out.
I don't know. It doesn't matter when. Either way, check on the channel. You can check that out. All on the same platforms everywhere. I'd be very curious to hear what you think of my stuff. And he's on the album, Mr. Christopher over there. We'll get some of his music out onto all the platforms soon, because that's what we do up in here. And anyway, that's fun. Live long and prosper.